Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Paramahamsa Pri Rajgacharya Sattva Sri Samad, His Divine Grace, Sirabai Charanarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON Deviti Father Acharya's Divine Grace Sri Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Harinama Sankirtana Ki Tara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Sri Govardhan Puja Ki Jai Sri Kartik Vrata Ki Jai ISKCON Golden Jubilee Celebrations Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada.
Bhakti Raghava Swami Ki
Jai! Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurimilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachate Shatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Everyone may kindly fold their hands and repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Shri Surabhyai Namaha.
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 Mukam karoti vasaram pangum langayate girim yakripa tamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam yakripa tamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Jai Sri Prabhupada Ki. So I'd like to begin by welcoming and thanking everyone for attending this very important festival. This is our third day of festivals here at ISKCON Calgary. And I know that many devotees have worked very hard to make all kinds of arrangements, and I think we could all see that when we circumambulated Govardhan Hill a few minutes ago, all the wonderful preparations. This is one of the main features actually of the Govardhan Puja. Govardhan Puja is one of the very important festivals because it commemorates very significant lila that the Lord performed primarily for the pleasure of his devotees in Vrindavan. It is such an important festival that way back in 1977, which is the year of Srila Prabhupada's departure, physical departure. Srila Prabhupada, as we know, was in Vrindavan. And during this most holy of all months, month of Kartik, Srila Prabhupada knew that in a few days there would be Govardhan Puja. And he expressed his desire, although Srila Prabhupada was practically unable to move. He was on his bed. He had to be assisted and lifted occasionally. This was in the month of November. As we are now entering the month of November as well. And devotees had to carry Srila Prabhupada in a palanquin to have darshan. But in those last few weeks, Srila Prabhupada, as we know, was not eating. For many months, actually, practically, he was not eating. But he considered Govardhan Puja, this ceremony, so important. He expressed his desire. And immediately, he expressed that desire to His Holiness Lokanath Maharaj. Now, some of you will know how many years in the early days of establishing our different temples, our three main temples at that time in India, Vrindavan, Mayapur, and at that time Bombay, now Mumbai. He had requested Lokanath Maharaj to begin a preaching program in the villages by bullock cart. And of course, we all know how Maharaj took that to heart, and he did wonderfully, as we all know, over the years. And he has since become our global minister for Pariyatra, you see. So when Lokanath Maharaj heard this request from Srila Prabhupada, he was very happy because it was completely in line with his preaching and his thinking was that, well, whatever the desire of Guru Maharaj is, of our spiritual masters, we should fulfill. So he started making all kinds of preparations. At the same time, there were a group of devotees who became very anxious. They were in total anxiety that if Prabhupada actually goes on, he wanted to go not only, in a car, he wanted to go on a bullock cart. In that condition, Prabhupada wanted to go on a bullock cart. So a number of the main devotees, main leaders at that time, especially His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj and others, they went to Srila Prabhupada and they started pleading, praying to him, Prabhupada, please don't do this. Please, you cannot go. It is against the advice of your doctor. And although Govardhan Puja is such an important festival, and we are right here in Vrindavan, and it is most auspicious to circumambulate Govardhan Hill. But Prabhupada, your condition will not allow. You will not survive. So like this, actually, there were two camps, two groups, and there was a big, you could say competition. On the one side, no, Prabhupada, whatever Guru says we should do, on the one side. And then the other devotees. And it became very intense. So intense that at one point those devotees who were extremely concerned about Srila Prabhupada's health, I mean, not that Lokanath Maharaj was not, but he was in a different frame of mind. Then finally the devotees, they actually surrounded Srila Prabhupada on his bed, and they again pleaded, and they all broke down actually. It was a very heavy scene. It's recalled or recounted in different biographies or diaries. And then Srila Prabhupada, when he saw that the devotees were so affected and so very strongly pleading for him not to go, he finally decided, okay, I do not want to put you in anxiety, so I will not go. And of course, it was only a few days after. So I wanted to read a short section from Srila Prabhupada's writing as to the importance of this wonderful Leela, Govardhan Leela. And we'll just try to cover a few small points. Just I'll read a few paragraphs here. This is taken from the Krishna book that all of you are familiar with. And in the Krishna book, all the different pastimes of Lord Krishna are nicely described, especially the one entitled Worshipping Govardhan Hill. So Prabhupada explains, the sacrifice known as Govardhan Puja is observed in the Krishna consciousness movement. Lord Chaitanya has recommended that since Krishna is worshipable, so his land, Vrindavan and Govardhan Hill, is also worshipable. To confirm this statement, Lord Krishna said that Govardhan Puja is as good as worship of him. Worshipping Govardhan Hill, actually Govardhan Hill, as will be described, is non-different than Krishna. From that day, Govardhan Puja has been going on and is known as Anakut also. In all the temples of Vrindavan or outside of Vrindavan, huge quantities of food, we got a little glimpse of that a little earlier, huge quantities of food are prepared in this ceremony and are very sumptuously distributed to the general population. Sometimes the food is thrown to the crowds and they enjoy collecting it off the ground. Actually, one time I was in Vrindavan at this time, and naturally in Vrindavan, at our Krishna Balaram temple, they celebrate in a huge way. You can just imagine. Possibly some of you might have been there. So they have this huge mountain, which is actually made of food, prasadam, and that is offered to the Lord. And it's actually very, very big. And then the devotees all, as we did, earlier, start to ambulate. And that particular year, I don't think they do it every year, but that particular year, someone started distributing prasadam from the hill. And within no time, the whole situation became a little out of control. But here Prabhupada makes the point that actually, even though such prasadam on such a ceremony, this is not to be done every day, but on such a ceremony, from this we can understand that prasadam offered to Krishna never becomes polluted or contaminated, even if it is thrown on the ground. The people therefore collect and eat it with great satisfaction. So, Govardhan Puja is, of course, we all know that story of Krishna convincing his father, Nanda Maharaj, who was preparing to worship Lord Indra. And although a young boy, he presented very forceful arguments as to why the residents of Vrindavan should not be worshipping a demigod, but actually should be worshipping this hill. Why this hill is so important. This is explained actually in our Shastra. Govardhan Hill and other such, we could say, mountains where there are trees. Govardhan 5,000 years ago was different than what we see today. Vrindavan 5,000 years ago was also very different than what we see today. So Govardhan Hill was having many trees, many sources of water, and grass would be growing. And Krishna's argument was that actually we are being sustained by Govardhan Hill. Our cows are grazing on Govardhan Hill. So therefore, it is Govardhan Hill who is sustaining us. So through this kind of argument, Nanda Maharaj, he gave in, so to speak, and all of the paraphernalia that he had prepared, they began to offer to Govardhan. And it is described actually in the Krishna book how the Lord assumed a special form, and he started to himself, we could say, honor that food that was offered by the residents. So Prabhupada explains how this whole particular pastime is in reference to the natural economy of Vrindavan. It actually is reflecting or teaching us how when we learn to live off the land, when we learn to live depending on cows especially, who provide us with all kinds of especially milk and ghee and other produce, then this makes for a very simple life where we are not overly preoccupied by material activities, material endeavors. And to a large extent, actually, this has become in modern day society a main problem, in that we have lost this simplicity of life, so to speak. So the residents of Vrindavan, actually Vrindavan represents, as we all know, that ideal village where, of course, especially 5,000 years ago, Krishna was the center of attraction. And that is why even now we find so many temples in Vrindavan where all of the Brajavasis, they are simply focused on Radha and Krishna. Prabhupada told us that we should be cautious when we visit Vrindavan and not imitate the Brajavasis. Because on Govardhan Puja, the Brajavasis, they take their cows and they don't, some of them walk around Govardhan, but many of them walk on top of Govardhan. Prabhupada told us we cannot do that. Because Govardhan is like, we all know how Govardhan Shila, many people worship Govardhan in that form. So therefore, devotees were cautioned, and our devotees within ISKCON society, they follow this very strictly by keeping good distance and just walking around Govardhan. So Govardhan Puja therefore commemorates, we could say, that simple life in Vrindavan where, and of course the story continues because after this offering to the Govardhan hill, then we all know how Lord Indra became. I thought this was going to. I thought this was a replica of water falling on. That would have been very nice, actually. It is. Oh, I didn't see. I didn't see the water trickling down. There's probably a way to do that. But yes, so Lord Indra became very angry because the puja had not been performed to him. And the whole Leela, of course, is demonstrating how the residents of Vrindavan spontaneously and immediately took shelter, requested Krishna, please, save us or protect us from these torrents of rain. And that is how the Lord, for him lifting a hill, even with a small finger, is nothing. Krishna is maintaining, Prabhupada explains, so many thousands and millions and billions of planets and so many universes. It is maintained by his energy. This is inconceivable, of course, for ordinary people, but as devotees we understand that the Lord is full of unlimited energies and potencies. So this point about, because whenever we think of Vrindavan, and especially such pastime as Govardhan Puja, then we should try to appreciate how Krishna cared for his cows in Vrindavan, how he cared for this simple way of living, and we see in so many different pastimes that are there in Vrindavan. The Vrindavan pastimes, we were touching on this point a few days ago, are extremely attractive. They are actually the most attractive to the devotees because the Lord in Vrindavan, different than other places, the Lord in Vrindavan, Krishna, he exhibits all of the different, we could say, rasas or emotions, relationships with his devotees. Beginning as a young child, and the parental relationship, his friends, the gopis and the gopas. So in this way, the pastimes of Vrindavan are most attractive, and we can learn, especially, I would say, very important in modern day society, because we are losing, we are losing very quickly the importance of villages, of village life. Prabhupada explains in so many ways, and especially in this particular pastime, how the lifestyle of Vrindavan, the lifestyle of a village, is meant to be the natural way that we live, so that we can more easily execute our Krishna consciousness. So the care and responsibility, there are three ways in which we should be relating with cows. Actually, on such days as Govardhan Puja, in India, in a number of places they perform actually Go Puja. Go Puja is something that Krishna actually performs every single day. And of course, there is a special festival coming up in a few days as well, Gopastami, where on that day especially, both in Vrindavan and Mayapur, they have a very elaborate a festival where they dress up the cows, etc. like that. We can do this. Actually, these are things we should be introducing even in foreign countries. So Go Puja is something that is very important. And then Go Seva, rendering service to cows. That is the second important activity and lesson that is here. And the third is actually what is called Go Raksha, protection of cows. These are three ways that we should be caring for cows, understanding that actually when we live as we should live, when we live in a more natural and simple way, then we become dependent on the cows. Actually, the whole world in so many ways is sustained, is meant to be sustained by the presence of cows and what they can provide to humanity. So on this very special day of Govardhan Puja, we should pray to Lord Krishna that he enable us to understand how important is village life, number one, how important are cows, how important it is to, I would say on a not only a regular basis, but on a daily basis, in as much as for us, Narada Muni explains in the Bhagavatam how the first activity for householders every day, first activity is to actually worship the Lord. And the proper worship of the Lord cannot take place unless we also simultaneously worship those living entities or those things that are very dear to the Lord. So cows are very dear to the Lord. Govardhan Hill is very dear to the Lord. So Krishna especially appreciates, and he becomes, we can say, indebted. He becomes attracted when he sees us giving attention to those living entities who are very dear to him. This is a whole, we've been talking about this in the last few days, a whole dimension which is extremely important and to a large extent, unfortunately, absent in the majority of our devotees' lives. We have, of course, in a few places, but not that many, possibly more so in India, where even in a city like Baroda, in Gujarat, they have Goshala. They have nice deer cows. Generally, it is only in rural communities, in some of our farm communities, where we'll have cows. Nowadays, it's very rare to have cows in the city. But today being my last day here in Calgary, I just want to leave or remind the devotees here, leave this small message that Srila Prabhupada and Krishna himself will become even more pleased and will be inclined to give more of their blessings to all the devotees serving here at ISKCON Calgary if some tangible, we could say, developments could be made in that area. That's something you have to work out. Bringing this dimension, which is nicely being portrayed or presented here in this pastime of Govardhan Hill. Actually, earlier in this description, there's a whole list. I didn't want to read it, but the whole list of the different preparations. And when I looked at the list, the majority of those preparations are milk preparations, Sandesh, rasgulla, burfi, gulab jamun, and the list goes on. So these are the favorite, Krishna's favorites, isn't it? Krishna, he is Makanchor. He's known as, he loves butter so much that he's ready to steal it. And he's glorified for being a thief. Everyone else is not glorified. So the Lord especially is extremely fond of cows and the different products that come from what Prabhupada referred to as the miracle food, milk. And today's milk is not is no longer miracle food because of the various types or levels of contamination and the way milk is being extracted from cows, from exploited cows, etc. A few years back, someone just told me this story. One sadhu went to the ISKCON Mumbai temple. He was going there, I think regularly, and then one fine day, he spoke with the temple president. He was like an old sadhu, maybe with a long beard, I don't know, I was not there. But he conveyed a small message to the temple president, who actually, by Krishna's mercy, by the mercy of Sri Sri Radha Rasbihari, took it to heart. That sadhu told him, I know that every day you're offering milk, but you're buying this milk. You're not offering milk from your own cows. Krishna will be more pleased. I'll tell you something in relation to this as well. One devotee mentioned to me that one of our acharyas, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, we have various very prominent, we call acharyas, teachers who have written commentaries either on the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, on the verse, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, that Krishna becomes pleased even if we offer him a little fruit, a little water, some leaf, like that. But in his commentary, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that Krishna is especially pleased when that food, those leaves that we offer to the Lord, is food that we have grown ourselves, that we have planted in the ground, that we have nurtured with water, with love and devotion, with care, and that food from the moment, we could say, of its conception, the moment it is planted, has been directly handled by the Lord's devotees. And such food, Krishna becomes especially pleased. The message he was conveying was that Krishna, being a person, being the greatest of all personalities, being the most sensitive of all personalities, Krishna's body is the most delicate body also, isn't it? When he would go in the forest, Mother Yashoda would tell him, you should not go to the forest bare feet. You should wear some shoes, because the forest is full of some rocks and thorns like this, you'll get hurt. And Krishna would reply, my dear mother, my cows don't wear shoes, I will not wear shoes. So Krishna, he's the most sensitive, so he knows what, he knows what we offer him. He knows in what kind of mentality we offer whatever it is that we may be offering. In other words, Krishna becomes more pleased and more obliged when we offer him, when we make the endeavor to offer him what is the best quality, the best of whatever we may have. And of course, it's a very major challenge, I know. It's a major challenge for us to offer such kind of food, but actually this is the kind of food we should be offering to Krishna. Food that is grown by our own devotees. Milk that is coming from our own cows. Milk that is coming from a Goshala that belongs to the Lord. Ultimately, of course, everything belongs to the Lord. But traditionally, we were making this point the other day as well. Every single temple even that is followed in India right now. Traditionally more so than presently, but every single temple would have so much land in the name of the deities, isn't it? That's what the system. The deities would have, and it was taken care of course, by the Brahmanas on behalf of the Lord. And every temple also, very close to the temple. If we go to Remuna, for example, in Orissa, in the district of Balasore, maybe after Jadeswar station, there is this station called Remuna, where they have Goshala, where they make this kheer, this world famous, Krishna is known as Kheer Chor Gopinath. And Lord Chaitanya actually had a stop there, had darshan of the Lord, Nityananda Prabhu as well. So many wonderful stories in that respect. So I'm just leaving this small idea, which is actually not so small, but the deities should have some land. Now, many people who are not devotees, who are not practicing devotees, understand the value and the need, more so than ever, of growing their own food. Community gardens, urban farming, these are modern terms. And so some of the devotees in the community here could take this suggestion, which would be extremely pleasing to the Lord. And in this way, as devotees, we should always pray to the Lord to help us understand how we can increase both the quality and the quantity of our service to Him. And the more we make that endeavor, Krishna naturally, He is always very anxious to reciprocate. Krishna, His desire to reciprocate with us is much stronger than our desire. So even if we express a small desire, then immediately Krishna will be inclined to assist us actually in realizing. So in closing this evening, I would like to again thank all the devotees here. You have a good number of devotees who are coming to attend these festivals. I'd like to congratulate those who are leading in different ways, who are taking different responsibilities. Please take advantage, as Srila Prabhupada wanted. He went through a lot of hardship to establish a different temple at different places, these temples of Krishna consciousness, and they are meant for our benefit, for associating, to help us advance and to learn. Every time we come to a temple, every time we hear a purport from the Srimad Bhagavatam, every time we hear a class, if we're attentive, and we should be, there's something new that we will learn. If we just make that little effort, Krishna, Dadami Buddhi Vakamtam, Krishna gives us the intelligence because He's within our heart. He knows more than anyone what is actually on our mind. And if we simply make that small effort, then Krishna will be very pleased to reciprocate and to help all of us continue advancing in Krishna consciousness. And I'd like to personally thank all the devotees once again. You have a nice facility, and especially I'm very impressed by these. These were prepared by different devotees through a lot of hardship, but somebody went through the trouble of getting all of this, laminated and posted. One can have a very quite deep meditation by taking a little time to read all of these wonderful achievements made possible by our founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, on this special occasion of his Golden Jubilee. So let us continue in different ways to serve this mission and to serve Srila Prabhupada. And in this way to serve, you have very beautiful deities of Sri Sri Radha Madhava here. And we are immediately, of course, reminded of Sri Mayapur, because in Mayapur we have Sri Radha Madhava as well. Thank you all very much. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna. Comment or question?
Comment.
Either.
Comment. I just wanted to mention that we don't have to buy land. We can also rent land to have a cow.
An idea here by Adi Jagya Prabhu mentioning that we don't have to buy land, we can rent land and we can have a cow. Either way, that's what I was mentioning a few minutes ago. It just takes a few devotees actually who understand, who can appreciate how important this dimension is, and to discuss, and Krishna will reveal more things how to make this happen. Good idea. Thank you.
His Holiness Bhakti Raghava Maharaj ki. Jai.